Hello and welcome to Free Grace International. I'm Lucas Kitchen.
And I am Shawn Lazar.
Shawn Lazar, every once in a while, my brain slows down and I just need you to decide what we're going to talk about. I think you have some idea today.
The last couple episodes we've been talking about the church and the metaverse, technology. We were talking about screen time and how we might be able to improve like our abuse of screen time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just amazing the technology that we have today that our kids are going to grow up with as normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really making, let's say sci-fi literature totally obsolete because because the technology is so much better than anything writers can come up with nowadays.
Sci-fi is like one of the biggest... What do you mean?
I mean, like, sci-fi was cool back in the 1950s when we didn't really have much technology, but now our technology is exceeding our greatest expectations that it's kind of making sci-fi literature kind of obsolete, don't you think?
What are you talking... Avatar, the biggest budget...
Blue clowns?
The blue... How about, for instance, people forget that the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's really a sci-fi... It's all sci-fi. Have you noticed there's spaceships?
It's not. It's barely sci-fi. It's superpower stuff. It's the heroes from fantasy.
The superpowers are underneath the surface.
No, it's Hercules. It's Thor. It's just ancient Greek gods. It's just fantasy with a little bit of sci-fi dressing. But like, no one cares about the sci-fi.
Well,
it's like technology nowadays is way better than that.
Fantasy
is obviously the alternative. Fantasy is eternal. Fantasy is ageless, it's timeless. It's more like literature than sci-fi. There's no sci-fi literature.
Here's the thing about fantasy. You already know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to pull a sword, there's going to be a spell, something's going to fall. I mean, it's all pre-canned.
These are eternal archetypes that just resonate across cultures and across times instead of having like a guy who like pulls out a doohickey with like a fancy name that was really just already 20 years out of date, even though it's said in the future. It's like sci-fi, I don't think people will be able to write sci-fi because the reality is just way ahead of sci-fi, but fantasy speaks to permanent things. It speaks to eternal situations that every little kid, every person can just identify with.
So if you like stories that have been told 1,000 times before, then yes, all of that is true. But here's one of the main problems with fantasy is that when you have a problem, you fix it with a wizard. He'll just wizard his way out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's satisfying. That is a satisfying story.
Sci-fi is different because they have to solve their problems with intelligence.
A robot wizard.
They have to invent something. They have to use things that they've created. You don't just get to magic your way out of the...
I think you should just stop because you're making me upset right now.
I think you should stop.
No, you should just give up.
No, you should stop because this was all a plan. We're not really fighting.
No, we don't care.
You know what's weird is we really have the same brain and we agree on everything. It took us 40 minutes to find something we could actually pretend to fight about.
It did.
Do you like sci-fi, Shawn?
Yeah, I like sci-fi.
You know what? I love fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, let's swap it up.
Yeah.
I think sci-fi is terrible. No, that's not true. I like it. Here's the point, though. People love to fight.
They love to fight.
And here's the thing. Most people aren't brave enough to do what we just did face to face. Now, we were laughing about it even then, but it's really common for people to fight, and they use the distance of the internet to say terrible things to each other.
Oh, man.
To do, character assassination, to say things about each other that they don't really know whether it's true or not, and just be rude. Do you remember, the very first introduction I had to a chat room, you know what I did?
What did you do?
This was like in 1998. I got in and I was so mean to somebody that I never met. It was like this green, guilty pleasure rose up in me because I realized I could say whatever I want. And so I was mean to somebody and I felt terrible.
Yes.
I was like, I don't want to be that person online. And so since then, I've tried. I don't always succeed, but I've tried to conduct myself online like I would in person. Maybe that's a new golden rule for our age, is treat someone online how you would want to be treated in the real world or something.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like,
the golden rule applies to everywhere.
Do you struggle with this?
I try not to be. No, I mean I don't. I try not to be mean to people or fight with people. But it is tempting. It can be tempting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a debater. All right, you just saw us debating.
You're better than me, by the way.
I like debating.
Yeah, there's a moment there. It's like I think I'm out. I think that's all there is, and you're still like just cranking it up.
Let's fight this out. Let's do it. There's something about debate that I like. I find that people often ask me, like, I mean, why are these theological discussions so heated? Why are you guys fighting? And I think it goes back to the point that you were talking about before. It's not really about the theology. It's that people love to fight about everything.
Yeah.
Talk sports.
Yeah.
Politics. Whether a show was good or not. Whether public school versus private school versus homeschool versus art, music, anything, Halloween, anything you can think about. Yeah. People will fight about it. And there's something tempting about releasing our aggression in that way. And it's a temptation for Christians too. And there is a verse that comes to mind about fighting.
Would it happen to be one that's already on the screen?
It's the one
right
on
here?
the screen.
Well, that's convenient that it came to mind. I like how you're going to just go and take credit for having it just right in your brain.
Yes.
Here, let's read it. So in the NIV it says, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." Oh, but you know what I don't think this is talking about? Like your atheist cousin's lover online. I think it's okay to fight with them.
Yeah,
right?
Weird Uncle Joe at Thanksgiving who has all the wrong opinions. You can definitely rail on him.
Blister them with your excoriating commentary.
It's live at peace with everyone. Actually, I misquoted it.
Live at peace with everyone.
I misquoted it. It's not live at peace with everyone. It is if it is possible, as far as it depends on
that's a good point.
you.
So sometimes it's not possible, right?
It's not possible.
What's a case where it wouldn't be possible to live at peace with somebody?
Well, when someone just hates you and they're just against you, and so it's like a conflict doesn't need two people. All it takes is one person to create the conflict, and then you suffer it. So, right?
Yeah. You know, it kind of strikes me that there is a big dependence on a reciprocation, and I mean, I've noticed this where. Like, if somebody's angry at me, I'm thinking of a particular situation where there was this guy, he was a postal worker, and I found myself standing by the mailbox, and he was cussing me out. I was younger at this point.
Yeah.
And he was mad at something that my brother had done to him on a previous day. He had thrown a tennis ball into his mail truck and laughed about it. And he was cussing me out. Now, I could have returned the favor.
Yeah.
But I stayed calm. And I said, well, sorry about that. That must have been frustrating, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he just completely, the anger dissolved, and he continued to deliver mail, and he didn't punch me, you know. And so I think in that situation, it depended on me to try my best to not get into a fight with this guy, which would have been easy because he was way out of line, cussing some guy out that didn't have any, you know. And so. A lot of times, people feel, I think, like they're stuck. Like he said something mean to me, now I'm stuck because I have to say something mean to him, and then we're stuck in this conflict. But most of the time, most conflicts have an immediate exit ramp that you can take.
Yeah, there's the on-ramp too. I mean, you can
there's
you
an
can escalate.
You know,
you can escalate.
That's true.
You can escalate or you can de-escalate, and you know the things that will escalate an argument, right? We all know, we're all good at that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the de-escalation, that takes wisdom. You know, that takes what is the verse where I can't think of it offhand because I'm just not as holy as you are. You might be able to think of it, but a soft word turns away wrath, something like that. There's some verse like that. Wow, what a great Bible answer person I am.
You did well.
To just quote a verse
some
like that.
Random verse that I don't know.
That I'm just kind of paraphrasing. But de-escalating, that's hard. But that's what he's asking for, right? Yeah. Live at peace is not, I'm going to ignore this person. Live at peace is I'm de-escalating.
Yeah, de-escalate
this conflict.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
Well, do you know that I think we actually have an advantage? Because a lot of people think, well, it's way harder to de-escalate when things are online because you have this freedom to say whatever you want. However, I think social media is actually a great place for us to get better at de-escalating because you write it down, and then you don't have to hit enter right away.
You
like
really
if I
don't.
say something to you
really don't.
out loud, I can't unsay that. So what happens with me pretty often, if there's a kind of a frustrating conversation online, I'll write it out, what I'm thinking, and then I'll just let it sit.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm gonna let it ruminate for a bit. Most of the time, I find myself hitting the delete key. Most of the time.
Yeah.
But it takes a minute.
Yes.
I mean, I rarely can do that in the moment. It's related to a thing that I do when I go to the store. If I go to the store, especially if I'm by myself, and there's something I want to buy,
Yeah.
but I hadn't talked to my wife about it, or maybe I don't know if I need it.
Yeah.
My rule is I carry it around the store at least once as I look for other things.
Oh.
By the time it's time to check out, most of the time I realize I don't need this thing. But the reason why we impulse buy, I think, is the same reason why we impulse respond. There's a pleasure in it, you know. And if you wait a minute, the pleasure often kind of, you know, it kind of just what's the word I'm looking for? It
Dissipates.
Dissipates, yeah. And so that, I think, is a great advantage of social media or texting. You have a minute. You can calm down.
Yeah.
Take a walk.
You can walk away.
Yeah, but we don't. A lot of time we don't.
I
We
find
have
this
that
in
opportunity.
parenting. I find this in parenting with my kids.
Yeah.
You know what Paul said in Ephesians, don't provoke your children to wrath.
Ooh, that's hard.
So I think this verse would apply to that too. I mean, live at peace.
Yeah.
So far as it depends upon you. That includes your kids, man.
That means our kids?
Yeah, that means our kids. And our wives. Well, you mentioned your wife, so that made me think of the kids.
Yeah.
But my tendency there is when they are disobeying, my temptation is to react. And when I react, that's going to escalate the situation.
Yeah.
But I like what you're saying, and it's something we've tried to practice. We've tried to just step back and just give it a minute before you react, and that helps to de-escalate. In that moment, personally, I always bring that thing to Jesus. I always just say, Lord, this is my problem. I'm bringing this to you.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
just that act of being self-consciously dependent upon Christ in that moment, for me, helps to de-escalate it. Now, my kids are still upset, maybe.
Yeah. But if you're calm, that makes a difference.
But if I'm calm, they get a little bit calmer. You know, if you just give it a little bit of time, their minds start to wander, and they'll maybe forget about being upset. But the reaction to their reaction is never a good thing.
It's
always escalating.
Yeah. I find that the dad thunderous boom voice that comes out of me sometimes, it does trump everything that's happening in the house when I raise my voice and let them know who's in charge.
Yeah.
But it's usually not a happy win. It's like I can win by, wild warfare here, but that's not the kind of victory I want over my family or my kids or online or with a friend.
Yeah.
Now here's the inverse of this, though. I think you're probably better at this than I am. There's a lot of times where I allow people to think I'm agreeing with them because I tend to avoid conflicts.
Okay.
I think you probably are better at, kind of working in that sphere because you are a debater. You kind of lean into that a little bit more than I do. I tend to be a little bit more cowardly when I sense that somebody's going kind of a different direction, and I'm just like, it's fine, yeah.
I don't know. I was born and raised in Canada, so I will be polite in order to avoid an argument. So it's like, absolutely, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yes. 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah,
You
no
got it.
problem.
You got it.
Yeah, I'm a math major, and that's perfect.
So you're raising the issue of like honesty in the de-escalation. So that's interesting too.
But it may be that can wait. That it de-escalate first, let it calm down, and then, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to deal with that. I feel personally pretty good at de-escalating. I don't feel as good at delivering truths that people don't want to hear. I struggle with that a bit in the moment. Now, like on a video online, hey, no problem. I'm not looking at anybody in the face. We do it all the time. But in person. Here's another thought. Not all disagreements are a sin. I mean, we can disagree about stuff. We can even have a lively disagreement and discussion.
Yes.
And that's not automatically sin, And I think sometimes it's easy to get into the mindset that any disagreement is sin, and so we just shouldn't disagree. Well, no. I mean, Scripture itself is based on often the apostle who's writing the epistle disagreeing with whatever's going on in the church. I mean, that's what a lot of the source of our Scripture comes from. So it's not wrong to disagree, and it's not wrong to disagree vehemently.
Right.
Maybe that's not the right word, but just to strongly disagree. But I think we feel it when we cross the line.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got the Spirit of God inside of you, you probably are feeling it when you're stepping across that line.
He'll testify to your conscience about when you've crossed the line. Maybe the thought here is this, or the thought that I'm getting is this. You might think that the priority in an argument is to win the argument, but here's a challenge to you. Maybe the priority is not to win the argument, but to de-escalate the argument, to come back to a peaceful situation. So don't prioritize correcting someone who is wrong. Don't prioritize winning the battle, but maybe prioritize bringing peace to the situation.
I like that. Yeah.
And that's kind of, that's harder to do, but blessed are the peacemakers, Jesus said.
Absolutely.
And it's peacemaking. It's not
it's work.
It's not waiting for peace to happen by accident. It is making that peace.
Yeah, that's good. I think of it sometimes as I'm not trying to win the argument, I'm trying to win the person.
Yeah.
I want to win
good.
a friendship. I want to win a heart. I want to win a mind. And we don't do that at the height of emotion usually. We do that through long-form relationship.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the years that we were doing a lot of apologetic stuff and mostly focusing on atheists. I still have a few atheist friends who I love, who I met through that time.
Yeah.
And it would have been really tempting to just, blast them because they don't agree. But my goal was to have meaningful conversations and to kind of have this long-form friendship with them, because my thought is, if an atheist person ever does decide to change their mind, become a believer or whatever, I want to be the person they'll talk to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like one of the things that kept them from, and sometimes for me what that's meant is bite my tongue and not unload the dump truck. Now, I mean, I try to be honest. I try to say truth where it is, but most of the time, if you're talking to somebody that already knows your position, you don't have to restate it. They know what you think, and until you say you've changed your mind, they'll think you still think that. So, I don't know. So we need to live at peace. What was the verse? We need to, it was it Romans 12:8?
If it is possible.
If it is possible.
As far as it depends upon you, live at peace with everyone.
Shawn, I think you and me can live at peace.
Let's try that.
Let's work on it. I think I'll be okay with fantasy.
And
it's
good. I'm glad I won that.
I'm
glad I won that.
Who's your favorite?
I'm glad I convinced you.
I'm glad I won. Yeah. Who's your favorite sci-fi author? Say it out loud.
Asimov.
Are you kidding?
I think so. Yeah.
No way.
I think so.
It's got to be Bradbury.
I don't think I've ever read anything by him.
What are you talking about? All right. Thanks for watching Free Grace International. Hey, don't forget to come on over to our website. That was a weird way to say that. Like it's a parlor in the back of a trailer.
Yeah.
Come on over to our website, freegrace.in. Shawn, tell them about your show.
It's called The Art of Grace. Every day I'm going to try to encourage you with the Word of Grace from the Word of God. And tell us about your show.
I'm doing More to the Story, and it is a look at what's happening in the world from a Christian perspective. So we cover kind of current events or odd things that are happening in my life.
And then your lovely wife, Krista, does a kids show for the little ones. What would you say the age range is? 10 and under?
We're still trying to decide. We had it at like 5 through 12, but I think it may be more like 4 through 10 or something.
Okay.
Something like that.
And your kids are going to learn simple Bible lessons every episode. And check it out. If you have little kids and you've been struggling to teach them about Jesus, Free Grace Kids is a great way to do that, I think.
And as a parent, I think it'll make you laugh, because there's always these little embedded, anytime you have an adult creating content for kids, there's always these little embedded jokes that the parents might get.
There's
the
a
kids
level
don't.
that only you will get. So like and subscribe on this show as well, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.